Can everyone hear us now?
Yay.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for your patience with that. Really sorry that was taking us forever to get. What we were saying at the beginning here, please mute yourself if you know how to do so. We need to kind of focus on a few quick things that we need to get through on our end, and then we're going to open things up for question and answer. You can put some questions in the chat function as well, just so that we're all staying on the same page here. So thank you for your patience. We're sorry we're getting started a little bit late here. Dave Gelter's going to start things off with some quick responsibilities.
Okay, you saw me talk, but you couldn't hear me, so I'm going to kind of start all over again. My name is Dave Gelter. I'm one of the trainers here at the Board of Elections, also a voting location manager. Work on the east side. I have 3 precincts at Mercer Elementary. We kind of wanted to go over the chronological order of your responsibilities. Tomorrow morning, you're going to have to pick up your ballots at your designated site. I go to Lunken Airport to pick mine up. We want you to pick those up between 9 and 1. Remember, in the front pouch, you're going to find a set of keys, one for yourself, one for the VLD, and you're also going to find some special instructions there. You need to be calling or texting your assigned workers. We will show you in a second, once again, how to get into the portal and to see those. If you haven't got the mailing yet, I like to text folks. That way I get a record back that they have got my text and they are verifying that they will work. Jess, you want to show that to us again? Jess is going to show us that now.
I'm going to share my screen and show you not only how to get into the portal, but also how to access your staff list. Okay. So here's my screen. As you can see, this is somebody's staff list, okay? So to access the portal, you're going to go to the Hamilton County Board of Elections website. You'll select home, go to poll workers, become a poll worker. You'll scroll down, select access PEO portal. Here, it will then have you log into your portal. Right now I am logged in, as you can see. It's this little thing right here when you're on the website. Once you're into your portal, you can click on My Schedule and then select the date of the election, Tuesday 19. It looks like a little calendar, to see your staff list. This is how you find all the people who work at your location online.
And this will be the most up-to-date list because that updates in real time.
Okay, so once we pick those ballots and those special instructions up on Saturday morning, we encourage the VLM to get that special instructions packet out and read that. Assuming all of your folks are going to be able to be there, our meeting is at 6:30 on Monday night. It should take us an hour to get all the equipment set up. We do ask you to have an assignment plan. Ask your folks when they get there what they're comfortable doing. Be aware that some people may have had recent surgery or a reason they can't pick up some equipment. Maybe those are the people that you will have getting the polling books out or hanging the signs and those kind of things. But come kind of prepared with a plan of how you're going to get everyone something to do. We will be once again leaving there and coming back at 5:30 on Tuesday morning. And we have to get some stuff done pretty quickly. We want to get all the ballots out and get all the equipment done. Remember, one thing about Monday night is we must get all the polling books out and must have them all turned on because they need, as we discussed in class, they need to download some data because they have been sitting in the warehouse for a couple of days. We want to update all the people who voted absentee or also voted here in Norwood. That must be brought into our polling books. Remember, we're not going to turn any of the V-scan or the access equipment must not be turned on. When we pack up on Monday night, make sure to put the ballots and all the red polling books back in the cases. Do put all those back in the caddy and lock those up. Once again, we'll move to 5:30. You're going to have about an hour to set up for the election. The doors must open at 6:30. I do encourage you to rotate your folks all day as they are comfortable. Don't have anybody doing the same jobs all day. Have everyone doing some ballot handing out, some poll books, and some handing out the stickers. That way people don't get bored unless somebody absolutely doesn't want to do that, and you can work around that. Members start early, send a couple people to lunch at the same time. One of the things you have in the morning is you do have a checkoff list, so make sure to use your list. I use mine every year because it does help me to make sure all the jobs are done. In there, you will have a sheet that will have a place for you to write your poll workers down, because some places we're not having the party designation is not on some of the sheets sometimes. Have that person, when they write their name down, have them put an R or a D beside their name, so that you can make sure as you have jobs that need to be done by a bipartisan team that they are done that way, and you kind of know who to assign working together. Let's go up to about 7:30. At 7:30, those polls are going to close. Make sure that anybody in line at 7:30 can't vote. We should not take any equipment down before 7:30. But once that happens, we need to have a united force getting all the equipment closed up, because we do need to be done by at least, I would say 20 after. So I have to take and the voting location manager have to take our equipment back to Lunken Airport, and that takes me about 10 or 15 minutes to get there. So do allow you enough time to take red, white, blue, and blue back, and everybody should understand what that is by now, to the voting location thing on time. Remember, the voting location manager is a leadership position. We do expect you to be the leader at the site, doing some problem solving and making sure everyone gets along all day and works well together. Once again, use all those checklists and make sure we rotate the jobs. So that's all I really have, Kyle. Over to you.
All right. So Dave has just done a great job giving an overview of what is always going to be true for the manager's position. What I'd like to do is spend a few minutes calling specific attention to some things that we'd like to focus on in particular this spring. This is a result of either things that have happened either last year in the fall general election that we'd like to correct and get a little bit better at, or things that we're anticipating as a result of just 2024. So the first thing that I want to draw attention to are the categorized notes pages that you should have all seen in training class. Rather than having one sheet of paper at the front of the forms binder for all of your notes, there will now be different pages for different kinds of notes. The ones that we really want to focus on are those provisional notes and those void notes. Please make sure to use the new categorized notes pages to note when you have a provisional voter and when you have a void, anything else that comes up as well. Something that was suggested to me was kind of saying here today, what is the pertinent information that we are looking for on those notes pages? It's pretty straightforward. In the case of a provisional voter or a voided ballot, we'd request that you write down the time that this incident took place, if possible, the voter's name, and then for provisionals, the reason for that provisional ballot being cast. In terms of the personnel notes, what we are looking for are things that would help us with our payroll, specifically around timing. So if you're the manager and you're noticing one of your poll workers shows up 2 hours late on Tuesday, we would love to see a note in the personnel pages that says, hey, Kyle showed up at 9 a.m. on Tuesday. That helps us out after the fact to get the payroll all sorted out. So if there's any questions about that, we can take those at the end, but please use the categorized notes pages. Observers are anticipated at polling locations this spring and definitely this fall. If you guys have had observers at your polling locations before, you know that it's not any big deal. Observers are not representatives of the Board of Elections. They are to not interfere whatsoever with the election, which is to say they are not to speak to voters. They are not to speak to you as poll workers. They are there to observe and take notes. You must ensure as the manager of your polling location that you are swearing them in using the observer's oath that is found in the forms binder. Furthermore, they will sign that oath after you administer it to them. If you have any questions about observers in your location, call the help desk and we can walk you through all of the things that you need to know. That leads us into a quick little segue here. We've emphasized this in class for the last several sessions. We want to emphasize it again today. There is to be absolutely no partisan or political talk at the polling location. Even if there are no voters present, even if there are no observers present, we do not want to talk partisan politics. We do not want to talk anything divisive. The Reds are about to start playing. You can talk about baseball here. You can talk about all the moves the Bengals are making in this offseason. Anything you want, please refrain from talking about politics. If there's a confrontation with a voter or with your fellow poll worker, we also want to provide resources for that. We all watched the video in the training class on how to de-escalate a tense situation, and those rules apply on election day, whether it's a voter or a poll worker. The first thing that we recommend is trying to work things out between yourselves. You know, we're all adults here, and if we can kind of take the temperature down a notch and just work together, understanding that we are here for the voters, I think that helps us all out a little bit. If you've got an issue with a voter and they are being very disruptive or anything like that, try to process them as quickly as possible to get them out of the polling location. And finally, if there is any kind of, it goes beyond that, it's a little bit more confrontational or contentious, we really encourage you to call the help desk. We can help out there. And there is also a confidential notes pages in the forms binder as well. That's towards the middle of the binder. There are small manila envelopes that can be sealed, and you can put a confidential note in there that will only be read by the deputy director and the director of the Board of Elections. I got one last little thing to talk about here specific to this election, and it's just a real quick mention here. If you have a voter that comes in and they are wearing a face mask and they refuse to lower the mask to verify their picture on their ID, they'll have to vote provisionally, and please call the help desk with any questions regarding that. We've had some of the questions come up throughout training about what to do with voters with masks. I think Jess has one last thing that she wants to talk about, and then at that point, we're going to turn it over for questions and answers. Please, once again, put those in the chat and we can address all of them in turn.
There's just something you should be aware of. In the EPB, unassigned PEOs may still appear on the clock-in page. That's why we really want you to use your portal list or the list of workers in your special instruction bag to really know who should be working at your location.
Make sure that you're checking those training completion cards as well. You might have someone on that clock-in page that says that they're supposed to be there, but they never went to training. Check those cards, check the list, give us a call if you need. That's about all that we have prepared in terms of our prepared remarks. And we think this is a great time to turn it over to you all for any questions that you might have.
An observer.
Yes, Tina?
An observer. So isn't it the responsibility of the observer to come to the manager to identify themselves?
I do believe so. Yes, that is correct.
Because that's the only way you're going to know who they are in order to administer that oath to them. But I've had observers in the past that just come in and you just don't know who they are.
Sure.
So that needs to be reiterated to them as an observer that they do need to go to the manager and identify themselves.
Absolutely. And that's something that the parties that are assigning these observers should be communicating to their folks. As manager, you're also perfectly permitted to go up to that person and say they come in, they sit down in a chair, and they just sit there for 10 minutes. That's not typical. Mostly people will come in and they want to vote and get out of there as quickly as possible. You're perfectly okay to go up to them and say, pardon me, I'm just asking a quick question. Are you an official observer this election? That is okay for you to ask.
Yeah, that's how I learned. Because he certainly didn't come to me.
You learned on the team, Tina. That's good stuff.
Another one is a poll worker losing their card. Okay. A poll worker, she said she lost her card and that she would be calling to get 1 cent, but she wasn't sure how that worked.
Sure. So people lose those training completion cards fairly frequently. That, it's a small piece of paper. You don't stick it in your wallet. You just lose track of it. That's why we're saying check the portal for your list of the most up-to-date list of who is assigned to you. And if there are any questions, call the help desk. The help desk will transfer that call to the poll worker coordinators. The poll worker coordinators will look at their list and verify that that person is supposed to be there and successfully completed training.
Okay, I understand that part of it, but would they be providing them some kind of piece of paper in the mail that they could actually hand to the managers versus going through all of that, taking that extra time?
It depends on how much time they gave us. If you're calling
Okay.
me today and saying, I need a card, I don't think it's gonna get in the mail by Monday. So that's a little bit of the responsibility of the poll worker there. Tina,
I get it.
go over to the questions that are in the chat.
I'm sorry.
I gotta move over to the questions that are in the chat. Okay, so does the PEO provide a template for PEO sign-in and job assignment? I'm not sure exactly what that question is asking. I will say that in the quick guide, there are checklists that describe every job that needs to be completed at every specific time of the election. So if you open up your quick guides, you'll look at a page that says Monday night responsibilities. That has every job that needs to be completed on Monday night. And there are spaces for you to write your poll workers' names next to the jobs so that you know that you're making sure everything gets done that we asked gets done. I hope that answers the question, and if not, let me know. All right, if no issues in the precinct, do 17-year-olds vote and scan normally? They do not, no. All 17-year-old voters, regardless of whether there are issues or not in the precinct or polling location, need to put their ballots in the unscanned ballots. The unscanned envelopes. Those were those envelopes that had the green label. And in training, we said you're gonna write a 17 with a marker or a pen and circle it on the envelope. The 17-year-old will put their ballot inside of that envelope, seal it, and that will be deposited into the blue provisional and unscanned ballot box. Great question. And Jess is typing away at some of the questions that I haven't addressed verbally. That's, scroll through the chat as well. We're gonna make a recording of this accessible. We're gonna make a recording of this available to everyone. After this call is all over, we'll put this up on YouTube and send a link out for it. Does anyone have any other questions? You can hang out for a few minutes, and if anything pops in your head, let us know.
I have a question, please.
What's going on, David?
Often voters are curious about the possibility of connecting their ballot with the scanning. How does that work? How do we explain that it is a secret ballot and the ballot it is not identified with them?
Yeah, great question. So as you know, and as you already alluded to, the secret ballot is one of the cornerstones of our democracy, and we absolutely ensure that that takes place here in Hamilton County. The way that that is ensured is through the ballot stub. This is why it is so critically important to scan the stub on every ballot that you hand to a voter and detach the stub once you have scanned it. Please do not detach the stub before scanning it into the e-poll book. If you are doing the correct procedure, where you are taking the ballot, you are scanning the ballot stub at the back of the e-poll book, you are removing the stub and handing it to the voter, the act of removing the stub is what is creating the secret ballot. At that point, once the stub is removed, that ballot is anonymous and completely secret. Great question, David.
So you shouldn't remove the stub until you see great job. Move to your next voter. That's the screen you want to see when you actually pull the stub off the ballot. That way, if you scan, that way, if the voter the person handing out ballots is giving you the wrong ballot, and you scan that when you get an error code, and all you have to do is turn around and hand them the ballot back. Because remember, this is a primary. We have 2 ballots for each precinct, so there's a lot of ballots out there floating around. I have 3, so I'm going to have 3 precincts. So I'm going to have 6 ballots I have to choose from. So we're going to be real careful that we've scanned the correct one.
All right, I'm looking at the chat here. Can you provide perspective about rate of early voting? It's been pretty quiet. It has been pretty quiet. On note sheets, I suggest you add the bullet points onto the forms multiple times. We can take a look at doing that for the fall. Thank you for the suggestion, Henry. Any other questions?
Hello, this is Walt.
Hi, Walt.
Hi, Walt.
Looking through the
quick guide on page 9 where it talks about campaign attire. If somebody comes in with, say, a political cap on, I guess you would politely mention that it's not allowed, but you would want to make sure they understand they can still vote if they're disgruntled about that.
Absolutely. Yes. We never want to turn away a voter.
Okay, and then on page 11, where it talks about what observers can and cannot do, it looks like they can use audio visual recording device, but then they can't take photographs or videos. That seems sort of like contrary.
Sure. Raquel, would you like to try that one out?
You can try it.
All right, I'm gonna try here, guys. Raquel, sitting to my left, is my boss. So if I mess this up, she's gonna jump in and correct me here. So I believe what that is speaking to is the prohibition of filming any kind of ballot. Ballots and people filling out ballots cannot be filmed. So basically what we're saying here is whether you are an observer or whether you are Fox 19, you are not permitted to record anyone voting or the ballot itself. However, if the observer was to be using their phone to take notes or to record, let's say where those 100-foot flags were placed, that is a sort of a different beast, and that is within their rights as observers. Does that make sense, Walt?
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely. Raquel's quiet, so it sounds like I maybe said the right thing. Let's cross our fingers.
Hi there. As a follow-up to that 100-foot note, we had some questions about this in the past. Just as a suggestion, would it be possible to maybe get like a 100-foot piece of string or something that we could tie to a door handle and like mark out? Because we had a confrontation with some workers in the past who were wanted to stand on one side of a sidewalk versus the other. So it'd be nice to be able to have like a physical thing that we could check our 100-foot with.
That is a great idea. That's something that we can take into consideration. However, every polling location is not created equal. We do have some locations that the 100-foot will put them smack dead in the middle of the street. So we have to use the 40 paces rule. So it'd be 40 paces from the main entrance. But what location are you at?
The Bethlehem United Methodist Church.
Okay. So that's kind of the rule of thumb that we take. So you
And then the other issue we ran into there was the accessible entrance is like right by the parking lot, and so, but it's technically more than 100 feet from the main entrance. So like people can pass out literature right at the door there, and there were some voters who needed the accessible entrance who were complaining about being handed out literature at the door, even though it wasn't the main door. So that was my question that I typed as well. We had run into that as well.
Okay, I will take a look at your location and always call, either call the help desk or you have our PO supervisors' names. I rove on election day and come out to polling locations. If you have any problems, please call me and I will come to your location.
Okay.
Raquel Burgos, my desk number is 513-632-7066. Please call me and I will come right there.
Okay, awesome. Great, thank you. And then I actually had one other question that I don't know if it got answered yet. I put it in the chat, but if we have a voter that doesn't speak English, how are we to handle that? Should we just call the help?
Google Translate
desk or?
is the best option. If you have a Spanish speaker, you can call me. Spanish is my first language. I will gladly help walk you through that. Help that voter. But if it's anything other than Spanish, use Google Translate.
Okay.
And when you're doing so, try to make sure that you've got a bipartisan team doing
Yes.
that. You know, you don't want to just be speaking to that voter directly with your phone out. You know, we're always going to be bipartisan in everything we do when we're working with voters. Does anyone have any other questions? We'll hang out for a minute, and if nothing else pops up, we will say our goodbyes. Isn't the access writer ESL? I don't know really, to be honest with you. See, I know that it is designed for accessibility, right? So that would, to me, include people that are learning English as a second language. The language should be pretty straightforward and boilerplate. You know, it's not going to be using colloquialisms or idioms or anything like that. So I'm not really sure how to answer that question, but I would think so. And we are going to actually go and confirm that answer right now, see what happens. See, and Valerie raised her hand. Is there anything that we can answer, Valerie?
Valerie, we can't hear you.
And Miss O, did you have a question as well? I see your hand up. Did you have a question, Miss O? Okay. And possibly an answer here on that ESL question.
It is only programmed for English at the moment. So Google Translate will be your best bet. Call the help desk and we will try to provide any assistance other than Spanish.
Valerie, I think you're unmuted now if you want to speak and hear if it's working. Or turning up the volume on whatever device you're using, perhaps. Well, we got a lot of experts here. Seems like you guys are feeling pretty good. It's music to my ears.
This isn't Valerie, but can you hear me?
I can, Frank, yes.
Okay, learning how to push these buttons here. On the 100-foot situation, having been a previous warehouse extra, which is then your troubleshooter, they carry 100-foot rolls, and if there's a measurement problem, call the help desk and they'll send somebody out to do a measurement for you. And yes, sometimes 100-foot is in a parking lot, piece of cement or something. Just do a radius until you find some ground where you can actually put the flag. That's common sense. That's all.
You got it, Frank. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So don't worry about a 100-foot string. Just call the help desk. They'll send somebody to do it.
When in doubt, call the help desk. We're here for you all day long. Any personnel questions, you do want to call your PEO supervisors because they will be able to correct whatever issue you're having quicker than the help desk. If you are short a worker, they'll be able to move someone over from another location for you. If you're having an issue with a worker, your PEO supervisors will be able to fix that issue for you quicker than the help desk. But any issues with the equipment or processes, you want to call the help desk.
Would you support setting up an area for campaigners in parking lots like you do at the Board of Elections?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Is that you?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, let me try again. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Would you support setting up a campaign area in a parking lot like you do at the Board of Elections? Because our 100-foot mark on the grass can be squidgy if it's been raining like it did yesterday. So kind of trying to balance not making the guys stand in mud, but allowing them to, you know, have their democratic right to campaign.
I can take that up with our director and deputy director. We only have maybe 2 locations that we do that because they don't want the people on their physical property. So we have to set up special areas.
Mm-hmm.
But what location are you at, Katie?
I am, oh my God, Francis Healy.
All right. I will look at that location, okay?
Yeah, I mean, I personally, I think they should stand in the mud, but it's something that comes up every single year.
Okay.
All righty. Do we have any other questions? Well, I want to thank you guys for your commitment to our process here. You guys have all sat through a training class. You know that this is a big time commitment, and we really could not do it without you. You guys are the backbone.
I do have one more. Yeah, I do have one question. I was having trouble with the mute. The question is, how are we supposed to identify a 17-year-old voter?
It will appear in the e-poll book as you are checking them in. So just like
It
with
says-
every other voter,
Okay,
it will
that's
provide
all. Thank you. I'd forgotten that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, I believe that is our VLM call. Once again, we will make this available to everyone. We'll put it on YouTube and we'll send the link out. Thank you so much for your commitment to our democratic processes.
See you in November.
Have a great election.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thank you guys are doing
Thanks, bye.
great.
Thank you.